Jesse, cue it up. Everybody in their places. It's time to go.
Are we rolling? Yeah, we're rolling. Okay, let's get it done, everybody. Let's go.
Hey, Reagan, how's my hair? Is it okay?
Poxy, they can't see you.
All right, come on, let's go. Toots, people. Poxy, start on page 4. Get the lines right this time.
All right, I got it this time, I swear.
4, 3.
Come on. It's time for the Ghost of Hollywood.
Well, hello, wall crawlers. I'm your host, Poxy Leonard, here with no other than the notorious Miss Reagan. And yes, you were tuned in to the Season 5 premiere of The Ghost of Hollywood.
Tonight, we have actor and musician Oscar Lesage in-house discussing his career and his recent work in Demi Moore's body monster hit, The Substance.
Body monster. Anyway, Oscar has also been busy on set performing various core roles in series such as Marie Antoinette, where he portrays the notorious, and bear with me here, I'm going to say this wrong, but I'm going to try, Chartre. And, what? I like the emphasis that I'm probably not putting that. I'll continue now. And as Henry Thibault, that's right, in Clive Owen series, Monsieur, Spade.
At least you got that one.
I tried.
There's more. Oscar's set for his first premiere as the leading man in Jacques Mesguin's Le Choix Du Pianiste as Francois Terrain.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, take that, Pox.
Throw it in my face, Reagan. You're so articulate.
Very articulate.
Whatever. And as things go with The Ghost of Hollywood, Simon and Lynnox will be in-house to tell you a terrible cinematic tale from the depths of the cinematic dumpster fire as we push their career to SNL to be the youngest performers ever by 57, season 57. You do that, Simon?
57?
No, I cannot.
You can't? No? All right. Well, then get out of here. You're fired.
There's no
I'm
hope for
fired.
you.
Yeah. Anyway, you hear that, SNL? Gas these losers. I'm just kidding. No. All right. So, anyway, I forgot what I was saying, but stay tuned because there's going to be plenty of things going on this season. Lots of fun entertainment right here on the show. Yeah.
I'm Miss Reagan here with Poxy Leonard, and when we return, Oscar Lesage will join us. We'll be right back after these messages, so stay tuned because you're listening to The Ghost of Hollywood. Interested in television or movies?
Then check out The Ghost of Hollywood for the best in cinema-related podcast at theghostofhollywood.com or wherever you get your podcast.
Welcome back to The Ghost of Hollywood. I'm Miss Reagan here with Poxy Leonard, and joining us tonight is the talented actor, Oscar Lesage, a rising star known for his captivating performances that seamlessly blend depth and charisma. With a background in theater and an impressive transition to screen, Lesage has brought a range of compelling characters to life, earning praise for his nuanced portrayals in both dramatic and comedic roles. His recent project showcased his versatility as an actor, further solidifying his place in the industry as one to watch. We're thrilled to delve into his creative process, inspirations, and what lies ahead in his promising career. Oscar Lesage, how are you tonight?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Now we're excited for you to be here. So to take it all the way back, you trained at, and forgive my poor French, at the École du Nord, which is known for its rigorous and comprehensive approach to theater education. Now, how did you first become involved with the program, and in what ways did its intensive training shape your craft as an actor, especially when transitioning to screen roles?
So I moved to Paris when I was probably like 16, and I did 5 years at drama school. Originally, I went to the Cours Florent, which is a Paris drama school. And after that, I felt pretty ready to start working professionally. But then I auditioned for a public drama school. So in France, the public drama schools are actually the better ones because they're highly recognized and they get you better jobs. So I auditioned for a few and got into l'École du Nord, which is in Lille. So that's in the north of France. And it's a 3-year program. And so, yeah, as you said, it's quite rigorous, intense. And I was really happy to go there because I learned a lot about, I guess, like body work and physicality. And it was, I guess, very technical. Which I kind of lacked in the previous school. And the teachers were also like super demanding and not in like a toxic way, not in like like a whiplash sort of way. But I do feel that because, it was all so intense and that we actually did progress a lot.
So basically, it sounds like there was a lot of discipline involved. So you were able to take a lot of discipline into the method of it.
Work discipline. I definitely, I feel like nowadays when I arrive on set or if I haven't done theatre in years, but if I had to be in a play, I would, work twice as much as not not like more than others would because there's loads of actors that work a lot, but I feel like going to l'École du Nord really made me like a hard worker, and I'm really happy that that happened.
All right.
You began working as a fashion model during your teenage years, but, at what point did you realize acting was a path that you wanted to fully commit to? And how did this transition impact your career as a model at that time?
So yeah, I started modeling as soon as I arrived in Paris, and it was all out of luck, really. I just met someone who knew someone, and then like
Yeah, you
took
had like
few
a
pictures.
neighbor or something saw you, right? And you made like model of the week. It kind of took off for you sporadically, didn't it?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, yeah, my neighbor knew someone who worked in an agency, and then yeah, it all went pretty fast. But I've got to say, I don't think I was really good at it. And I didn't really
Why
enjoy.
don't you think you were good at it?
I don't know. The poses I do, I was just feeling uncomfortable the whole time, and I didn't feel that interested in it. All I wanted to do is act and watch movies and all that, and I felt like it was really a very different world. I guess it got me like accustomed to cameras and lights, but apart from that, it is a very different world. And so I don't regret doing it. It was fun while it lasted, but I think me and my agents, we mutually understood that it wasn't really for me. I'll do a photo shoot every once in a while, but it's really not my passion. And I liked being at school, doing theater and learning my lines way better than being on sets taking pictures. So that's how I kind of knew that I was really going to stick to acting.
That makes sense. Now, did the physicality of like say positioning yourself for the way that you would display yourself as a model did that kind of interact at all with how some of the physicality you were learning to develop as an actor at that time when you were younger?
Not really. I think I learned about all of that on set later on. That's another reason why I think I was really shit at it because I just didn't know how to step in the light. And they were always like, no, don't do that weird thing with your mouth or just you look weird, just try something else. And I just feel like very self-conscious and be like, oh, please just let me leave. I don't want to.
Well, I mean, it's understandable if you feel like you're getting kind of poked in pride at a way, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
now with the entertainment industry, it and the way that things are going now, especially as you've started working through the industry with the transitions and feature links, and then of course all the different streaming platforms that are available now.
Mhm.
As an actor working in that landscape, how has it played a role in your ability to choose the projects that you want to work on, or do you still find yourself auditioning for most of your parts?
I definitely still audition for most of my parts. And I've learned to enjoy auditions because it can be really scary and just, you arrive and, you want the job so bad, but at the same time, the stakes are too high. So you start shaking and sweating and you can't deliver the lines properly. But, I've got a bit more experience now with it. So I actually enjoy auditioning. But yeah, I think I got offered parts maybe once or twice, but usually I still do have to audition. But what I'm starting to do now is be a bit more picky with the projects that I do audition for, because I've sometimes been on set for a project that I don't really care for, and I felt quite miserable. So I would rather not work than work on a project that I don't really, it has to make sense for me.
No, I mean, it makes
nowadays.
sense. It sounds like you're trying to get beyond the stepping stones of kind of the introductory part of your career. Just, like, Reagan, you understand, like when you do
yeah.
early acting stuff, you're kind of, you don't take on everything, but you aren't as picky about roles. And then, of course, as you get more options, I guess you're going to get more selective about it. So it definitely makes sense. And then you're going to probably apply yourself much more entirely to that as if you enjoy it. So it's totally understandable.
Yeah.
Well, you worked on the miniseries Monsieur, Spade, a neo-noir detective story set in France in, the 1960s. So, how did you come to be involved in this particular project?
Well, I auditioned for it. And funnily enough, I actually didn't get the part at first. It was a friend of mine, but then he wasn't available, and so I guess I was like their plan B. But it never felt like it, which I'm very actually quite grateful for. But no, yeah, it was a great part, and I only had like 2 episodes
Yeah.
at first, and so yeah, then other stuff happens, and which I had not anticipated, and that was really um interesting to work with.
Yeah, that one episode, like, that's almost like when you're at the pool and, she's like, she's only 15 and you're like 16, 17. And you're like, I'm patient. I was like, oh, that's vicious. That stuck. I saw that one time
Yeah.
and didn't forget it.
Well, can you describe your process in portraying such a multifaceted character?
Well, as I said, at first you think he's just this young guy from the army, and then along the way you discover that he's actually working for the Secret Services, and then you discover he's like a secret OAS, which was like a terrorist French group in the 60s, and they were fighting against the liberation of Algeria. So yeah, he's got like 2 secret identities, and I didn't know that at first. But it might have been a good thing in the end, because if I'd known all of that from the start, I might have tried to put it in the performance. Whereas I think I just acted quite innocent in the first few episodes, and that it worked to the benefit.
So they really
Um,
didn't tell you. There's like, you really are naive to it. That way there's no.
well, they weren't being like secretive about it. It's just that I think they were still writing the final episodes, so we got them a bit later. But I think it was a good thing in the end, probably, at least for me.
How did how did you
Henry.
feel about it when you first read? I mean, I guess you were obviously excited that there was more incorporation of the character, but how did you feel about the way that they transitioned the character's role?
I thought it was really surprising, and I loved it. Of course, but it made the character completely way more complex. But what I also loved about the character is that he's got his secret identities, but at the same time, he is just a young, clumsy, a bit pervy young man. So he really looks up to Monsieur Spade, and he's trying to be like him. And he's got all his very strong ideas and opinions, but he's so young. He hasn't actually formed an opinion yet. And yeah, Scott Frank, the director, was always like, he's just a young man who's made wrong decisions at a young age. So yeah, a very complex character.
And Franklin, so he created it, but he's directed pretty much the entire thing. So he directed you all as well, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, he was great to work with. And Tom Fontana, who was on set as well, I just finished watching Oz at the time. So he created Oz, which is a legendary HBO show.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I was a bit of a fanboy with him. I was like, hey, I just finished watching Oz. It's so amazing. Oh my God. And then Dean Winters came for a few days, and he's a legend. I mean, he's amazing.
Now acting with like Clive Owen, how is it being on set with all these people? Are you starstruck, or is there surrealist notion, or you just?
I'm definitely starstruck, but I try not to, I try to hide it, and I think I do a pretty good job, probably. I try and act really relaxed, because it's just very uncomfortable, I think, to be around starstruck people. They can act all goofy and be all fake, and that's not something you want to be perceived as. But yeah, Clive Owen, I mean, I grew up watching, I didn't grow up watching it. I watched it when I was a young adult, but what's Children of Men? Is that the title? of the
Yeah.
film? That, and then even the French cast, like Denis Ménochet, I mean, he's a legend. He's one of the best French actors, like French living actors. So yeah, it was definitely, it felt like Disneyland for actors, basically.
How long did you work on the project? How long were you on set?
4 months, I think. I mean, I wasn't there every day, obviously, but
Yeah.
I think the shoot was, it was lasted 4 months.
That's not too bad. I mean, I know that a lot of television series, like, they can get pretty intense because of the way that the continuity is, you can be shooting episodes simultaneously, and then there's a lot going on side by side. So the logistics are crazy compared to feature films.
You also, so you wrote and acted in the short film Waving Back, which was directed by your brother, correct, Max?
Yes.
What was
My brother Max.
What was it like being directed by your brother, and how do you think it affected your performance?
Well, it's a funny thing because he's my younger brother, so I'm 5 years older than him. So it's a bit weird at first when your younger brother, who you still, see as a baby, sometimes is giving you notes and telling you how to do your job. But because I wrote the film with him and my girlfriend Ella, so we all knew our characters really well. We knew what story we were trying to tell. So I guess it was more like having a conversation about the character and the situation on set. It was it's a very horizontal experience. I don't know if that's a French expression or not, to work horizontally.
Well,
If that makes any sense.
no, I mean, elaborate if you're able.
Well, like vertical and horizontal is when there's no like boss or anything. We all work.
You're
at
saying
any
it's more
time.
like collaborative. You're kind of
Okay.
working collectively then.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, and then I wrote the song Waving Back for the film. And that was actually my brother's song that he wrote. And then we were looking for the song that the character was going to be singing in the film. And he thought, oh, I've got this demo, you could maybe, work on it. And so I made a few tweaks, rewrote the lyrics, and then we had the song.
No, so you've composed together. Then what's it? Have you collaborated on things like music and stuff since you were young? Did your parents influence that when you two were working together, like younger? Is there kind of some?
Well, my sister's a dancer, my brother's a film director, and I'm an actor, and our parents are not artists, like not in not in the least. So I really we it's kind of a mystery. No one knows why the three of us ended up being artists, but I think it's just because they always encouraged us to do what we loved and never told us, oh, you should be a doctor, you should be a lawyer, whatever. We're really lucky for it, because I feel like lots of artists start their life with their parents breathing down their neck. So yeah, and I collaborated with my brother. Yeah, we did music, a bit of music together, and he's directed or co-directed with a few music videos for me, for my because I make music as well on the side. So
how involved are you with the production or the direction of your music videos, and how do you collaborate when you work together to develop them? Has he worked with you on all of them? Because I know you've got several and you've put out a lot of singles. Like, for instance, the most recent Action. Did he work with you on that?
Yeah, definitely. So I had the idea of the whole boxing thing. And then I asked him to, work with me on it. And, we both love the movie Raging Bull. So we knew straight away that was going to be like a key influence for us throughout the filming and the post-production. And then, he helped me find crew members and organize the whole thing. He helped with the color grading, with the edit. So he was there all along the way, definitely.
Oh, wow. So it's 100% then. I mean, you guys are working all the way down to the grade together. So everything is like, it's pretty, you're very involved in the technical process of all of it.
Yeah. But I mean, also we live together. So I guess it kind of happened naturally as well for us to work together.
The natural question goes in, like, who wins the fights? I'm just kidding.
I hate to say that I do, but I'm not really proud. I think it's just because, I'm 5 years older. It's just because of that.
No, that makes sense. Now, reverting back, I don't mean to jump out of context for a minute, but reverting back to your work on Marie Antoinette, you played the role of Chartres. How's the name pronounced correctly? Help me out here.
So yeah, don't worry about it. All of the UK crew members couldn't say it either. They were always like, "Oh God, I hope I don't have to say your name in a scene. I fucking hate saying it." So it's in French. It's Chartres.
Chartres. right.
Yeah, I know. It sounds like you like sneeze in an old language. It's horrible. Uh, but yeah, no. So in English, I guess it's Chartres. That's how I say it in the series.
I can see it.
Chartres.
All right, that makes sense to me. It's yeah, like all right. So but if it's shots, now when I just want to say it, right? So where'd the audition process go down for this? Because this was one of your, kind of one of your first big performances for a television series. How did this all take place?
I think it was my first English speaking role, actually.
Oh, how was that?
Well, so the audition, I had a recall with the director on Zoom, which is always a bit awkward because you're sitting at a table and, especially for a character like that, you have to pretend that you're living in the 18th century and that this is all normal. I'm totally not sitting in front of my laptop in my living room. But yeah, the director, he, went by really quickly. He just said, all right, let's do another take. Just do it more, like sexier. And I didn't even really know what that meant. So I spoke with a raspy voice and was like trying to seduce the camera. And apparently it worked. I wasn't sure. I was, unsure if it was like good or like really cringe, but apparently it was quite convincing. So thank God for that. And then yeah, so preparing for the role, at the time I had like my British accent because I was raised by my mum who's British. But then also I was watching loads of American films and TV shows, so I had a British accent with a hint of American, and I didn't want Chartres to sound like a moron, or like like an unknown species. So I listened to like BBC 4, the radio, for hours and hours till I got my very posh British accent. I was really proud of.
All right. No, so like you're saying, so like your natural accent's almost more like, it sounds like you're describing like a transatlantic accent in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, like say like in the United States, I guess it would have been like late 20th century. That would have been like a prestigious sort of thing, But
really,
yeah. Like I know there's like say there's a good example I would say is like the old conservative talk show host William Buckley. He had a show called The Firing Line, like back in the 60s, but he used a transatlantic accent. It's like probably the greatest example of like that I could think of, or a good example of that. Anyway, all of that aside, go ahead, Reagan. I know you're going to ask a question. Sorry.
Well, with the Marie Antoinette series, did you find any parallels between the struggles of characters, from that era and today's societal challenges? Did you find any parallels between those?
Kinda, I think. Because the show has a very feminist approach to it, so it makes it quite modern, and that you see the struggles of this young woman, living in a man's world and struggling with that a lot, and she's surrounded by horrible men, so I guess that makes it reliable to today's society, but at the same time, I feel like it is still a very, very different world. The aristocracy and the etiquette and the fact that there is a king, and no one can vote. All of that, it is still a very, very different world, and probably, I mean, definitely, that's for the best.
Was there a lot of? Did they have to? Did the production feed you all a lot of like a lot of historical backlog, or was there a lot of expectation for you all to know some of the historical context of this?
Well, Deborah Davis, who wrote the first season, she's a historian, so she knew everything about every character, and she told me which books to read, and then so that helped quite a lot. I read all about my character's life, and then I wrote, of course. No, I read a book about about Marie Antoinette, written by Stefan Zweig, and it's an incredible book. It's almost like you're reading like this thriller, but it's about Marie Antoinette's life. So I definitely recommend reading it. So yeah, that helped. And then we had this guy, we called him Etiquette Guy, who would show up sometimes on set, and he would show us how like to bow or to say hello, And some of it was actually too ridiculous to translate on the screen, so we had to tone it down a bit because, I mean, my God, the weird shit you had to do back in the day.
So the formalities in ways became an excess. It sounds. I mean, I guess the set design had to be pretty elaborate that you all were working on as well. It was supposed to costumes and everything of that nature.
Yeah. They did an amazing job. They worked for months. Every detail. I mean, some of the stuff on my outfit you couldn't see on the screen, but I had these buttons with pornographic images on it, like pornographic paintings on my buttons, which fit really well with the character because Chartres is kind of a pervy guy. No, that and the set design. I mean, they did an outstanding job, really.
All right, I'm Poxy Leonard here with Miss Ragan, and we are speaking with actor Oscar Lesage. It's time for a quick break here on The Ghost of Hollywood. Stay tuned. We'll be back with Oscar right after this brief segment of the cinematic dumpster fire brought to you especially by my friends Simon and Lynnox. Now, stay tuned. You are listening to, the wildest in cinema. This is The Ghost of Hollywood.
When it comes to making movies, anything can go wrong. And tonight we're here to discuss that on the Cinematic Dumpster Fire.
Good evening again, everyone. A melodrama is currently playing itself out in Hollywood that, for sheer emotionalism, rivals anything put on film. The embattled figure in this drama is director Francis Coppola, who once again finds himself waging a war to keep his dream financially afloat. 2 years ago, Coppola took over a run-down lot and turned it into a viable company that boasted the kind of employee loyalty that hasn't been seen in Hollywood since the heyday of the studio system.
Yo, what's up, everybody? I'm your man, Simon, and it's time for another session of the Cinematic Dumpster Fire. Alright, so before I begin, I hope everyone is enjoying the interview with Oscar Lesage. But let's step away for a minute so that I can digress into a completely unrelated topic that will induce the cinematic nightmares of filmmakers young and old.
That's it. Scare all these motherfuckers into day jobs and practical decision-making.
Our engineer and my twin brother, the formidable Lynnox Flannery, everyone.
Snap to it, big guy. You got a story to tell.
All right. So let's turn the clock back to the early 1980s for a second, where we revisit the movie One from the Heart. Ever heard of it? Well, if you have, you know exactly where this tale will lead. But if you haven't, sit back because I have an interesting story to tell you. And no one dies this time.
I like how you abruptly threw that in there like, don't worry, I'm not totally morbid all the time.
Whatever, we're constantly talking about people being killed on set doing something crazy. Anyway, One from the Heart is a romantic drama directed by none other than Francis Ford Coppola, who at the time was riding high from his triumphant feature film, the now legendary Apocalypse Now. Turning his interest in creating a movie about show business, Coppola would set out to pursue an elaborate venture, one he would largely finance himself, putting his Zoetrope Studios and his own bank account on the line.
Hang on a second. It's important to note that Francis has very recently played his financial hand again for the film, Megalopolis, which has been notable for polarizing critics and its money hemorrhaging budget that is beyond return at the box office.
Thank you for the eloquent side note.
I'm honing in on my smothered brother's naivete, so to speak.
Huh?
Nothing.
Now, back to the story, beginning with Zoetrope, which at the time was brand new, and Coppola's pivot towards the studio system, making One from the Heart the first to be filmed on its sound stages, with constant parties in motion, a sense of broadening the community of theatrics on film, and the elaborate set designs. You know that too much of a good thing feeling you get before going over the cliff?
Well,
We're at that part. Now, to continue, set designs became more elaborate and increasingly expensive, with miniatures galore and real-life replicas of venues such as a part of the McCarran International Airport. Eventually, every stage at Zoetrope had been under construction for the film, which I thought was really crazy.
So, I read there was like a $2 million backing offer by MGM, which was turned down by Coppola during pre-production negotiations, with him putting $15 million of his own money on the line, borrowing some from pre-sale potential and a large bank loan.
Correct, and at this point he increased the budget to $23 million to get all of the set design stuff I'm talking about completed. And check this, Coppola at one point makes an offer on Pinewood with the intention of connecting it to Zoetrope via satellite.
How'd that pan out?
How do you think it panned out? However, it's worth noting, and I'll keep this to a statement for the sake of time, that Coppola and Zoetrope were very ambitious in their use of implementation of innovative technology, which led the way to many budding workflows that would eventually resonate in the now very digital world of cinema.
The process that would spawn from all of this was at the time termed pre-visualization.
What is pre-visualization?
It's easier to understand than to explain, but you know what I'm getting at.
No, I don't know.
It's playback, it's storyboarding, review, framing, all that packed into one.
I think I follow.
Well, I tried.
So, bad goes to worse financially when some initial investors back out, leading Coppola to take out various personal loans and putting his house on the line as collateral. Zoetrope president Bob Spiotta said that when production began, there wasn't even enough funding for the first week, so employees decided to take a forego pay to keep the project alive, with non-union staff taking a 50% pay cut. And at some point during all of this, MGM backed out of the film.
Enter Jack Singer, known as a business tycoon, throwing his bid into the ring, providing finance for the film's completion. And along comes Paramount to take over distribution. Problem solved? I don't think so. And what's also interesting is that at the time that Singer made the investment, Zoetrope was on the line if One from the Heart failed at the box office.
Now we turn to today's world, with many of you aware of the polarized reviews that would emanate from film festivals and critics around the globe following early screenings of Coppola's most recent film, Megalopolis. And moviegoer reviews haven't fared much better. Despite this, Coppola spits and defines at the world in judgment. Confident time will develop his hand. Why, you may ask? Because this is exactly what happened to One from the Heart. A private bid print screening of the film took place for potential distributors and critics, meaning it was still in post during this viewing, even having an accompanying disclaimer featuring Francis himself explaining the matter, what turned disastrous when negative reviews permeated in the press after the screening.
And then, to be blunt, shit got ugly. Like pea soup in the waiting line ugly.
I don't get it.
There's nothing to get, other than pea soup. You look so confused right now.
The only time pea soup comes up is during the vomit scenes in The Exorcist.
Well, strap in, buddy, because this pea soup story is much more to endure.
I hear you, Dr. Seuss.
So, after the initial screening shits the bed, Coppola goes to toe with the press to prove to the Paramount execs that One from the Heart has the chops to draw. Ready for it?
I just want to know what this has to do with pea soup.
Getting there, but first, Coppola books another screening, this time at New York Radio City's Music Hall, which had a capacity of 6,000 people. Now, the showing is scheduled in January, and the day of, the lineup hits the block outside waiting for tickets, and everyone is freezing their fucking asses off.
Yeah, so?
So, as a gesture of warmth, Coppola is literally serving hot cups of pea soup.
That's the fucking payoff?
What?
Go on with your dumbass pea soup story.
It's true.
I love that pea soup. That pea soup, boy, it's great.
Well, fucking pea soup for everyone, then.
I like pea soup.
Putting in on that Smothers Brothers riff quite nicely.
What?
Never mind. Anyway, an exuberant audience on their way in was a largely cynical one on the way out. Describing the film was aesthetically pleasing, with not much else to offer, with the ensuing press conference left Coppola in a verbal sword fight with the media, and ultimately saw Paramount go the way MGM had before it.
At some point, Columbia steps in to save the day, but the marginally small theatrical release, by my data less than 100 theaters...
Can we trust your data?
You ever been to the moon, Simon?
Where is this going?
I dare to say no.
Why are we talking about the moon?
Because you've never been there, but you know it's real, right?
So?
Because of data, that's why you know it's there.
Or maybe because I can see it.
What, the data?
You finish.
I stand by my point.
Back on One from the Heart, which saw a box office return of less than $900,000 against a $23 million budget, effectively bearing Coppola in debt he would struggle with until the success of his film, Dracula, years later.
And the wine, don't forget the wine.
Yeah, he's done well with the wine, that's for sure. But One from the Heart did cost him the studios he bought for Zoetrope, and it would play out as a dire warning when gambling big on what may consider to this day to be an ambitiously made film.
However, Coppola is still standing in defiance of finance, and a sensationalized media-driven cynicism as he continues his filmmaking career well into his 80s.
Gotta give him that. And we are short on time, so I'll wrap things up here with another tale of the cinematic dumpster fire as we make our way into Season 5 of The Ghost of Hollywood. I'm your host Simon, here with Lynnox, and it's time to turn things back over to Poxy and Ragan, where they will continue their conversation with actor Oscar Lesage. Until next time, everybody.
Interested in television or movies?
Then check out The Ghost of Hollywood for the best in cinema-related podcast at theghostofhollywood.com or wherever you get your podcast.
Well, switching gears back to your music, which I know we discussed a little bit earlier, Can you tell me what led to your interest in writing and recording original material, and how has it evolved for you in recent years?
So growing up, I was always a bit of a geek. Like I was always, making short films, and I loved working on them, like with softwares and like editing softwares and doing magic tricks, like visual magic tricks, and writing stupid short films. And then I started messing with sounds on Mixcraft, which is a a very very shitty. We call them DAWs, so I think it's digital audio.
Yeah. It's like it is like a really just kind of primitive DAW, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
But I mean, I worked on Mixcraft for years. I love to like sample weird sounds, and I was making like not parody songs, but funny tracks. You call them. And then one day, I was also parallel to that. I started writing. Like I was listening to a lot of rap, and I started writing my own songs. And this one day I thought, you know what, I want to write a song for my dog. Which I did, and the song's called Love My Dog, and it's on Spotify. And I actually still have an American accent in that one. I was still kidding myself and pretending that I wasn't British.
All right.
So yeah, that was like my first official song. And then I kept, I was doing all the production, the mixing, all that. So it took, it was months of work, but I really loved doing it. I was in my own world, and yeah.
Now, did you start to develop, so, it kind of evolves, I guess it's experimenting in sound. And I'll say, because like relatable, like as you get more immersed into it, you realize you need things and it doesn't always have to be like specific equipment, but maybe to whatever sound you're trying to capture. It could be something like a stupid toy or an antiquitous piece of equipment, or just having a regular setup. How did you find you began to immerse yourself in this? Like, did you have to start setting things up around you as time went and really developing a whole production for yourself as you got more involved with it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was, recording my vocals with a towel over my head, and, with them surrounded by mattresses.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then, getting to know all about plugins and synths, and also the mixing. But that's why eventually I started going into the studio and having the song mixed by professionals, because even though it's really interesting, it's still like an actual job. And I feel like you can't become like a mixing engineer just by watching YouTube tutorials. But I did still, learn quite a lot with YouTube. But eventually I thought, you know what, I'll probably end up saving loads of hours if I just, have it done by a professional.
It's an interesting approach, though, because a lot of people will go the other way. A lot of people, they'll like go to a live house or get the recordings done, and then they want to engineer it on their own. So it's kind of, it's smart that you do it the way that you do, I guess. But it probably saves you a lot of room in the house with compressors and all that extra shit.
Yeah,
you would
yeah, definitely. But why I think it's still, that's why I don't regret learning how, the basics of mixing, is because when I'm in the studio, I can be really precise with what I want, and I understand what's being done. I'm not just sitting there being like, oh, they're doing their, all magic tricks, and I have no idea what's going on. I actually understand the whole process, and, I'm still learning while I'm watching them do it.
Yeah, and well, it makes sense. I mean, it makes the language of it easier, because you're not, you get people that are like, not as aware of the sound. Like I've been, I've recorded before. I really had an understanding of a lot of audio at times. And you're right. You're more subject to your own naivete and the organic response of that, rather than kind of having a calculated sort of approach of knowing what you want to do and the abilities and what you can actually do when you get in there with the equipment. So now, how do you, with recent collaborations with like performers such as Adron, did I say that correctly? Is that,
it's it was Audron.
Audron.
But again, that's very French name. So,
well, you're saving me here. I appreciate you for helping me along. Now, has that had a strong impact on your style, or how is working in like kind of vocalist collabs different from working on your own? How's that approach?
I've known Audron for years. We actually went to drama school together,
Nice.
and we actually worked together. We met on the set for at Atomic Ed, and then went to drama school together. And then after that, we were like both making music and thought, of course, we should collaborate. And yeah, I mean, it's great working with him. I wrote a song within an hour with him, which I never do. I usually take weeks to write a song, but he actually, helped me stop overthinking shit. And he was just like, "Come on, mate, just like let's just write a verse here and now." So that was really new for me. And then I actually did production for him on a handful of tracks, and I discovered that I love working for other people as well, because I'll make beats that I wouldn't usually make, but because I'm trying to make them fit in that other person's universe, it makes me explore new like sound territories. I don't know how to call them, but so yeah, it's been really inspiring working with him.
No, so you get kind of an exploration through the people. Now he was in Atomic Ed too. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
We were in Atomic Ed, man. That and I was interested because I know it's a short film, but the fight scenes in that are really intricate. Yeah, and that tennis, that ice hockey tennis thing y'all got going on there look kind of brutal.
Woo.
Yeah, he plays my best friend in Atomic Ed.
Oh, he's the one that turns at the end. It's like in the floor.
That's him.
How long did you have to work on the fight scenes for that?
I can't, because it's such a long time ago. I can't really remember, but I think I don't know, it was at least 2 or 3 days of rehearsing, with stunt men. Wait, how do you call them? Stunt men, right? Stunt.
Yeah, I guess stunt men are stunt coordinators. I mean,
stunt coordinators, stunt men. But yeah, it was a blast. It was really fun. It was one of my first experiences, and I was already like covered in blood and hitting people with a tennis racket, so it felt really good.
Yeah, you like launched yourself over a table there at one point. It looked like you took you.
Yeah. If I actually did myself, I was really proud. I was like, "Fucking hell, yeah, I did it myself."
Now, how does the interplay? So, say when you're recording music videos. I mean, I know we talked a little bit, and you mentioned the Raging Bull influences and working with your brother, but how do working on the music videos? How does the interplay as a vocalist differ from how you perform as an actor in front of the camera?
Well, that's a very good question, because actually, especially in rap music, there's all the like traditional rap gestures, I guess you could call them.
Yeah.
Which I don't feel, a bit like modeling. I'm not. I don't think I'm really good at it. So I think the music video for Action, because the track is kind of an ego trip, and I'm talking about how I'm like, I've got money now and I'm the best in the game, like every other rapper.
Yeah.
And so I thought it'd be interesting if the images told something else. And so that's why we see this guy coming in having, because I've never done any boxing, and I thought it'd be interesting to see this guy who's like so very so drunk on his own self-confidence that he goes to take lessons, and then gets in the ring and gets his ass completely beat. And I thought it challenged I guess the traditional masculinity that is very often is very present in rap even nowadays. I thought it'd be interesting to challenge that a bit, question it.
Why do you feel it important to humanize yourself in that light?
Yeah, I think what I like about rapping is I'm actually not acting anymore. I try to be the most truthful possible. So there's another song called Wiseman, which I define as like my documentary song. And it's in reference to Frederick Wiseman, who's my favorite documentary film director. I'd say in the US, but it's probably in the world. And okay. So it was like, I'm going to be as honest as I can. I'm going to tell secrets that I'm not proud of in the song, very personal stuff. And it felt quite liberating. And I think you know, being that authentic is really what I like doing in music.
How do you portray your influence, like the lyrical transition? I have two questions with the lyrical stuff. How do you translate your appreciation for, you know, a filmmaker like Wiseman lyrically, and then does your, you know, you're bilingual, obviously, so and then of course you have some different understandings of the dialects of English because you, like you said, your mother is English background, and then you spent a lot of time in America and acting in America as well. So how does do you find that you can approach certain expressions through French better than English, or do you have a preference of how you express yourself, or vice versa?
Definitely. My French is way better than my English. I mean, I've definitely progressed over the years, but if we were to talk, I don't know, about like politics, I would much rather have that conversation in French than in English, because it gets quite frustrating as well, because you're like, oh God, I want to make a really good point, but I'm talking like an 8-year-old, so I'm not really conveying the ideas as well as I would like to. So I definitely think, you know, my French lyrics are way more complex and witty and all that. But what I love about English is the power of simplicity. You know, when you translate English songs into French, they sound completely stupid. But for some reason, in English, no, but really, and for some reason in English, it sounds amazing. It's like poetry. So I don't know why it's like that. But
do you think it's the rhyme scheme in particular, the way that obviously that has some impact on it? Do you believe that's it, or is it the way that there's just more loaded language?
Probably that. But I think also the power of English is, again, its simplicity, and the power of French is, you know, like Marcel Proust. I'm reading.
I've read Swan's Way before. Proust is that's some intense stuff there. I mean, Proust wrote until he died. His brother had to finish the work.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the genius of French literature, but it's, you know, it's like 10 pages long sentences. So, it's two very different languages, in my opinion.
Well, riddle me this. How, if you've read, in Swan's Way comes up a bit in some of the work that you've done. What was it that I was watching where Proust comes into play with something you've done on screen? I don't recall what it was now. Dangerous Liaisons, I think, is what it may have actually been.
Oh yes, yes. There's one line where she's like, "Are you reading Proust at a party? Why are you doing that?" Because she's like the very nerdy girl that comes to a party, but she's got Proust with her, like a book.
Like, how does my understanding is like, so I've read Swan's Way, but obviously an English translation of it. So you read a lot about mother's kisses and kind of the understanding of something that's not so much Oedipal, but a child's understanding of their parents, you know, in a lot of ways because of the deflection of the father and this sort of. Does that translation in French probably comes off much more? I feel like the articulation would be much more effective. And this is a naive question, and I don't mean to digress, but it seems like
no. It's a really good question. I don't know, because I've only read it in French. But even in French, sometimes I have to like reread a sentence 4 or 5 times to fully get it, and even then, sometimes I just give up because I'm not even sure it's proper French. But I mean, you know, he was writing in his bed. He was ill, and he was a genius, but he was working 10 hours a day, I think, writing the book. So, yeah, it's a very, very intense read. But at the same time, it's really, he was a genius, and his understanding of human psychology is just mind blowing. Like, every page is just, wow.
I agree.
Well, with your music, is there anybody you'd like to collaborate with in the future? And do you have any more music on the way?
I mean, I'd love to like collaborate, I don't know, with James Blake, but I don't think that's going to happen in the next year. But I would definitely. He's a really big inspiration. I think the way he, you know, does electronic music, and then, you know, he does a collab album with it's Lil Yachty in American, so in English, I don't even know how you say it.
You said it right.
Yeah,
you
that's
said
right.
it right.
Yeah, but I'm trying to pronounce it with a British accent, because I'm British, remember? So,
But no, but
so
the way you said Lil Yachty still sounded fine. It sounded good. Yeah.
Juliette Armanet, she's a French pop star. She's really amazing. Caroline Polachek, Danny Brown. It's a very wide range of artists. But yeah, I listen to a lot of different music. You'll go from hard rock to rap to soul, jazz, whatever. So yeah, I've probably thousands of dream collabs. And new music. Yeah, I'm actually, well, I've been testing and, playing around with different stuff. So I'm not even sure my next album or project is gonna be rap centered. It's probably gonna be a bit more rock oriented, but nothing's for sure. I'm not sure about it yet. I don't know. It's still in the very early stages.
All right. Keep an eye out for
Well,
it.
to see what you do. Now let's turn to the big thing that's been on your plate as of recent. Now, you recently played, and of course you had more of a minor part here, but you played Troy in The Substance, right? And that's starring Demi Moore. Now, I want to start back at the screenplay because that was most notable before the movie came out. And now, when you first read the screenplay, being that the film is so abstract, what was your initial reaction?
I thought it was insane. But I'd never read something like it. It was really, I remember reading the last 15 pages and thinking, how are they going to do this? Is this even a real thing? But yeah, I immediately fell in love with the script, and was really happy to audition for the film. And I'd actually been an extra on Coralie's short film 10 years prior. And I told her that when I met her, and she thought it was really funny. So I was really happy to be a part of it, definitely.
When you auditioned for the part, was it a lengthy process? Did you have to do a lot of screen testing, or was it drawn out, or was it pretty, ABC?
No, I think I did it. I did a tape. Oh yeah, I did a tape at home, and the character rides a motorcycle, and I just had my bicycle. So I added like a motorcycle sound effect on top of it, which apparently they all found really funny. So that got me a recall, and then it's just one recall, and then I had the part.
What was it like working with Demi Moore? How'd you handle the more intense moments on set, like when you're yelling at Demi on the motorcycle, or the blood effects during the couch scene with Margaret Qualley?
Yeah, you got like chew Demi's ass out in that one scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I met her on the day, and she was really, really very kind. She was with her dog, Pilaf. I remember that. And yeah, we're kind of used to that as actors. You're yelling 1 minute, and then they say cut, and you're like, hey, so how you doing? And you start chatting about your lives. So, and I find that being angry is quite easy as an actor. Like, I'll struggle with, I don't know, crying, for example, but suddenly suddenly yell is really easy for me. And she was so kind that it was quite, it wasn't like a big sorry, what's the word for that again? Like a big yeah, sorry, that's my French brain working right now. I forgot the word. But anyway, it was a very nice moment. And then with Coralie, Margaret, the blood was all right. It was more about, that again, we met on the day, and then 5 minutes later we had to make out.
Is that awkward having to do that, or like with the intimacy coordinators, does that change the game?
Well, there wasn't an intimacy coordinator actually, but because she's such a pro, Margaret actually, set up this choreography for both of us, and I just, said yes to everything.
Yeah.
But no, it was really great working with her. She's amazing. She's, in between takes, she was stretching and doing all these acrobatic moves, and I was just staring. I didn't know what to say, but yeah, very impressive and so professional. And after one or two takes, it wasn't actually awkward anymore. It really felt like a dance choreography. And I remember we were chatting about like French politics in between takes. So yeah, another very
Oh, I bet that was
interesting.
intense.
Yeah, she was asking me what I thought of Macron.
Oh, all right. Well, yeah. So I mean, yeah, I know that right now French politics stay pretty busy. They are all over the world. But
Yes.
I guess right, so you all, I suppose you agreed on it, or else the scene got more interesting as you went.
I agreed on what
The political discussion you were able to concur.
Oh yeah, we
Yeah.
basically had the same political views. That would have been awkward. She
I don't know.
Like
We're on take
mass-
4, and I don't want to kiss you now. No, but there's a weird in the scene though. It cuts like right when it happens, but a bunch of shit like falls out of her back, of course, which correlates
Yeah.
to the larger story, which is hard to explain all of it here. But when that happens on set, now how many
I
takes did
wasn't
you have
there.
to do? Oh,
I
you
wasn't
weren't.
there. That was all done in post. Yeah.
Oh,
I
so
think
you didn't have to
she
deal with a
wasn't
bunch of
there
this.
either. I think she wasn't even there. It was all done with like prosthetics and all that. Um, yeah, I think there was a month of additional shots, and it was just technical stuff like that, close-ups and special effects. So all I got were a few drops of blood on my stomach. That was it.
Oh, okay. So like the nosebleed part. I understand.
Yeah.
I was wondering when it happened. I was like, oh man, I bet if they did that shit on
That'd
set,
be
it was
gross.
messy. Yeah.
I'm sure it was. I just wanted to witness it.
Now, deviating really quick because we didn't talk so much about your character Jacques Charrier. I know we talked a little bit about the series Bardot.
Right.
But to bring it kind of into perspective, so you play Jacques Charrier, who was Brigitte Bardot's second husband, and of course how familiar, Charrier was an actor as well at some point, and then of course they had her only son and her first child together. How familiar were you with Charrier's work before landing the role, and what kind of research did you have to do to prepare for it?
So I'd seen him in one film, but I didn't know who he was at the time. And so, I read the scripts, and he was the part, because originally I was auditioning for another part, but then I, read the episodes where he's in, and I thought, wow, I really want to be Jacques. So when I met the directors, I tried to, voice that in a subtle way, and they got the message. So for the next recall, I was actually reading for Jacques, and yeah, so he wrote a book about his relationship with Brigitte Bardot. So that was obviously really helpful. And then I actually met his daughter. So she's not Brigitte Bardot's daughter. She's from another marriage, but she's my age. So we became friends and had chats about her dad. And then I think it all had to do with so Jacques doesn't end up having the career he was dreaming of, and I feel like that will happen to a lot of actors. And I thought it was really interesting to explore that, like the kind of the dark side of the job, and the depression and all that goes with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was quite dark to explore, but at the same time, I really thought the part was beautiful, and so he goes through so many different things, and yeah, I was really touched by him.
Well, it's interesting because he, and correct me if I'm wrong, but he at some point didn't he go after Bardot when she wrote about him in her book at some point, didn't he?
Yeah.
So he initially was kind of reluctant for like having his private life drug out on the floor. I guess he's not so much now, but at the time.
Yeah.
So did that resurface at all when you had to prepare for that? Did you kind of was part of the darkness of that some of the reluctance of having to reface it years later? Or?
Well, I mean, yeah, she accused him of pretty serious stuff, and so he, fought back, but no one really knows the truth. And so there's actually, I think there was lawyers got involved at some point, and some scenes had to be rewritten because, he could attack us for defamation. So yeah, it was kind of tense at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's so many like I mean, you worked on one episode of The Crown as well, which is kind of, got
Yeah.
that it's still depicting things that are almost happening in real time now.
Right.
So I guess
Right.
there has to be a lot of delicacy around writing and, dealing with this sort of liability of that. Now, going back to short films for a minute, so these often have like some tighter time constraints, which can limit, character development or dialogue. How do you adjust your approach to a role in a short film to ensure the character's depth still comes through? And do you find that visual storytelling plays a larger role in compensation or in compensating for limited exposition?
Definitely. I mean, I don't really change my approach to like the craft per se. But I don't know. Short films are just generally really hard to make because you have to convey your message and your ideas in a very limited amount of time. But I guess for actors, you don't want to cram in every bit of information about the character within 10 minutes. You don't want to, you'd be overdoing it. So I just tend to stick to the script and, try to make it believable, alive, human. And then I guess it's more the director's job to make it all exist and work together within, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes.
You were cast for a part in the 2024 remake of The Count of Monte Cristo, which is set to release in the US later this year. Now, as your career progresses, do you think you will still have an interest in playing bit parts such as your role in this film?
So originally I had a bigger part in The Count of Monte Cristo, but it got cut because the film was way too long. So I was like the fencing master, and I had loads of like fencing scenes. And it was really fun to do, but because the film was too long, it all got cut. And so in the end, I kind of looked like an extra in the film, which obviously for an actor is quite frustrating.
Yeah.
But if I had to do it again, if I knew it was going to get cut, of course I wouldn't do it again. But even like smaller parts, if it's just a few scenes, if it's still interesting to do, and it's, I took fencing lessons when I was a kid, and I was not very good at it, so it was kind of.
That's what I was going to ask, if you had any background in fencing, because I know there's.
I actually did, and it was actually really helped, even though I wasn't really talented when I was a kid. But I would definitely do that type of part again.
So it would be more about like, I guess the frustration is obviously the absorption of time. Because there's a lot of, stop and go or hurry up and wait sort of situation with acting. So you have absorbed so much time into that. And so basically if you were, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what it seems like you're saying is that if the part is a bit part, but it's secured in a brief amount of time, and that's kind of known beforehand, you're willing to approach it. But if it's something that is going to absorb time and then waste it, you really don't have the interest in that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's always going to be a bit of a gamble anyway.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
But yeah, it was still really fun to make, and it's great memories. So in a way, I really don't regret doing it.
Now, excuse me, because my French is poor, but in Jacques Opmisgain's new film, Le Choix Du Pianiste, you lead as Francois Touraine. That's correct?
Yep.
A pianist. Now, he's a pianist who faces moral decisions during World War II to protect someone he loves. Now, given that this film follows your recent roles in emotionally complex projects like Bardot, what were some of the most exciting aspects of stepping into a leading role? And did you face any challenges in portraying the internal conflict of Francois?
So yeah, for that film, I realized that being the lead is a much more work. I mean, it sounds obvious, but you realize you've got a lot more responsibilities on your shoulders, and that you've got way more scenes. And also in that film, the character goes through so many different emotions, and it's all very intense. So, and also he's a musician, and a really good one with that. So I had to train. I took piano lessons. I had my musical background, so I knew how to do a few chords, and but still, I mean, I was supposed to be a genius, so I had to learn how to be a fake genius, basically. And so that was very intense. And then yeah, just going through like, losing your dad and your loved one and your life and, being a musician for the Nazis, all of that. Very, very intense. And yeah, I had to dig really deep, which was scary. And,
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to say. Like, you have to deal with, obviously, you probably had to do a lot of research into Nazi history and how this was going on. So, if doing that, I'm sure there's a lot of challenges in being able to manage your personal health or your mental health or your welfare when you're going through that sort of process of having to dig that dark with not only the personality and the character type, but the overall synopsis of the story. How did you manage that personally at that time?
I think I'm kind of lucky. I'm never subject to like I'm not the type of guy that will go like, oh the character still lives in me and I can't sleep anymore. To me it's really like a switch. The real challenge is can you actually flick the switch? And sometimes it feels like the lights are out. I don't know where I'm going with that metaphor.
No,
but...
I mean, I understand like the lights on or off. Like you're saying, is it harder to turn the lights on or off? Yeah.
And sometimes because the stakes are so high and the character's life so different from yours, it really, I guess the hardest thing is really working on your imagination and convincing yourself you're really going through all these emotions and events. So that was, yeah, really what I had to work on and what felt quite new for me because it was a lead and because, it was so intense.
Was there in the screenplay itself, I mean, was the intensity of it as far as how do you deal with say as a lead, there's a lot of day over day work. You're obviously not memorizing an entire script. So you kind of have to have a regiment for yourself where you're learning this much, you're getting this amount of sleep, it's the logistics are insane. So as you began to kind of empirically or so to speak, physically undergo this, what did you find most challenging? Was it to be able to manage your like the schedule day over day, retaining the lines, really getting into the character? What about the transitioning to a lead did you feel was your biggest challenge?
Well, for that film, I think it was also the music because I had like 14 different songs I didn't have to know them by heart, but I had to know where my right hand was going to be at a certain point in the song. So every night I'd be rehearsing on this little keyboard I had brought with me. I was in my hotel room working on that and also memorizing the lines. So yeah, definitely at the end. It was quite a short shoot as well. It was only a month, but still by the end
That's vigorous though. A month shoot, you must have been working hard. That's a lot of work in a short period of time.
Yeah. No, it was very intense, but I mean, it's every actor's dream as well. So
was there a lot of coordination with the say the cinematography crew? Did they, when you're like say close-ups of your hands or where you were talking about hand positioning, was there a lot of direction as far as how to?
Funny enough, sometimes they would start filming my hands. I was like, no, please don't do that. It's not going to look good. But they were like, no, it works fine. And funnily enough, it did sometimes, not all the times, but yeah, there are definitely scenes where it's my hands and it actually works because, the fingers are moving so quickly that you can't actually tell that I'm bullshitting my way through. But then they did hire a stunt double, like a hand double to play the songs for real.
Well, I know at least you didn't put everybody through it. You're like, look, I need 2 years to memorize all this. Like they probably would let you do it. But now we'll let you go. But I do want to ask one more question, but before we do go, what? So this one's obviously a little more topical. But what do you appreciate most about working in both American and French cinema? And are you more intrigued to take on more roles in American cinema as you move forward? And how have the two differences in the industry kind of begin to shape your approach and career as an actor? That was really loaded. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I think, well, first of all, there's a scale. Usually American or even British productions will have way more money. So it really feels, like working for The Crown or Marie Antoinette. It's huge sets. So that's always really exciting. But at the same time, I like the intimate atmosphere on a French, like on a very broke French film. I really like both. And then I think the main difference is also, I mean, and it actually has an impact on the performance and the acting, is the language, because English is so much more musical, and you can do like really like weird vocal inflections that would sound completely ridiculous in French, but in English you can actually, you know, do it really big. Whereas in French, I feel like, you know, your acting has to be a bit more grounded. But again, I like doing both. I don't really have a preference, at least for now. But obviously, I would love to, you know, work on more international projects and, you know, come and film something in the States or in the UK. Yeah, that would obviously be an amazing thing to do and a big dream.
Well, with The Substance at #1 at the box office right now, I'd imagine you're going to have a lot coming your way in the next few months. So we're excited for you, and we appreciate you taking time to join us on the Ghost of Hollywood.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was really great having that chat with you.
Interested in television or movies?
Then check out The Ghost of Hollywood for the best in cinema-related podcast at theghostofhollywood.com or wherever you get your podcast. Welcome back to The Ghost of Hollywood. I'm Poxy Leonard here with Miss Ragan, and it's time to wrap things up in the studio tonight.
We'd like to thank Oscar Lesage for joining us tonight, and we wish him the best of luck as things continue to pick up for his budding acting career.
When's my acting career gonna hit the gas, Ragan?
Oh, that ship has long sailed, old man.
That is not true, and I'm not an old man.
Whatever, don't get all insecure.
You know, you'll be old one day, Ragan.
One day, but for now, it's me on that billboard, big guy, so step back.
It's my week, Ragan. You're stealing all the time.
You already ran out of time.
This is fun. This is fun, you know? I like this. Who wrote this?
Another year with you, yeah?
Yeah, anyway, that's right. I have survived.
Barely. Anyway, we'd like to thank our crew here at the Ghost of Hollywood for all their hard work as we grease the wheels on a new season. Chris, Jesse, Grady, Simon, Lynnox, Beth, I'm so sorry you've had to deal with Poxy for 11 more months.
Yeah, y'all keep greasing them wheels, baby, because I ain't going nowhere. Just kidding, I'll probably get hit by a bus next week. Anyway, The Ghost of Hollywood is also streaming wherever you get your podcasts and airs late night, early morning on KBOO 90.7 FM Portland. So for more information on The Ghost of Hollywood, you can visit our website at theghostofhollywood.com.
And that's it, everybody. That's all we got. And of course, we'll be back next month with a brand new episode. You can follow us on social media and subscribe to our newsletter on the website to keep up with all the latest antics and interviews.
Oh yeah, antics and interviews. Until next time, I'm Poxy Leonard.
And I'm Miss Ragan.
I can't believe they actually wrote this way. Are you ready to do this?
Oh yes, it's the big finale. Okay.
Anna, good morning.
And good night.
Everyone's fired.
Terrible.
You have just listened to another episode of The Ghost of Hollywood. The Ghost of Hollywood was created by Zach and Reagan Flannery. The show is written by Chris Klon and Zach Flannery with contributions by Reagan, Simon, and Lynnox Flannery. The show is mixed by Lynnox Flannery at the Electric Garden Studios with Whistle Productions in Vancouver, Washington, and is mastered by Grady Sizemore at Microphonic Meltdown in Portland, Oregon. All composition by Jesse Garcia, performing as the Styling Head, Porn and Virus, or the Pineapple Nightmare. For more information on The Ghost of Hollywood, please visit theghostofhollywood.com.